Judge Executive Al Mattingly. Al Mattingly is the Daviess County Judge Executive and was sworn into office January 3rd, 2011. Judge Mattingly, born to Alfred and Connie Marie Mattingly on May 23rd, 1947, is the eldest of 12 siblings. He graduated from Owensboro Catholic High School in 1965 and in 1969 received his bachelor's degree in biology from Brescia College. Judge Mattingly served in the United States Army from 1969 until 1972. In 1971, Judge Mattingly married Judy Wolfe, Judge Judy Wolfe, W-O-L-F-E. My mom was a Wolf, so we may be related. I'm not getting into that. And they have one son, Will, and an Owensboro attorney. Al and Judy have owned a small business in Owensboro for the last 46 years. In 2003 and in 2007, Judge Mattingly was elected and served as an Owensboro City Commissioner. In 2007, he served the Owensboro City Commission as Mayor Pro Tem. Since his election, Judge Executive Al Mattingly has not only reorganized and refocused county government, but also partnered in regional and statewide initiatives. In 2017, he received the Wendell H. Ford Regional Legislative Leadership Award from the Green River Development District for his work with legislative issues that benefits the citizens of the region. Please help me welcome Judge Al Mattingly.
He did have to emphasize eldest, didn't he? Let's see, which pair of glasses this morning? If I read this speech with this pair, it comes out differently than with this pair. I see Tom Mitchell back there grinning. Tom, you come up and read it through your glasses, it'll be entirely different. Well, good morning. Rooster Booster, yeah. Happy New Year. This will be my 8th State of the County address. I can't believe those 8 years have gone by, or 7 years have gone by that quickly. And each year I've tried to talk about issues that affect our counties, our communities' quality of life, instead of things that you can read about in the newspaper, Messenger Inquirer, or on TV. This year, I want to review some of the issues that I've talked about in the past, but we'll get to those here in a few minutes. Oh, by the way, I received a text, and Tom, I think you received the same text from Suzanne. Don't say anything bad about the state legislators. Well, I'm going to talk about them, but it's not too bad. First, let me start by introducing my Daviess County Fiscal Court team. Commissioner George Wathen from the West, would you stand? Charlie Caslin from the Central District. I'm surprised Charlie made it this morning. He's the only person I know that gets colder than my wife. Commissioner Koger from the East. These folks are my eyes and ears out in their respective districts. Without their help, we couldn't do what we do on fiscal court. Will all my staff stand, please? Come on, staff, get up. Sheriff Kane, would you stand and ask your deputies to stand? And Fire Chief Smethers, would you please stand and ask your men to stand with you? You know, these folks sometimes get a bad rap, but I want to tell you, they're the ones I want to see when I get in trouble, and I think we all feel the same way. Our constitutional officers, Claude Porter. Claude, would you stand? Claude's job, I think, is to tell us no on when we want to do something. Oz Osborne, our county clerk, couldn't be here this morning. You know what Oz is doing? You've all heard about the issues that we've had with the state program at the clerk's office. Oz is over there handwriting automobile and truck titles, and he's actually printing out license plates for those vehicles. I told him if he didn't show up, I'd say that. Susan Tierney. Susan is always forgotten, our court clerk. Rachel Foster, where's our PVA at? Rachel, I know you're out there. Stand up. We want to get a look at you. Jeff Jones, our coroner. I don't think Jeff is here. Art Maglinger, our jailer. Newly appointed and newly minted, Art Maglinger. And you know, I don't know if he's here. David Osborne, our former jailer. Even though he's not, I want to really give a special thanks to David. When I took office, we were subsidizing the jail at over $2 million a year, and we have substantially reduced that cost. And it's all because of the really cooperative effort between fiscal court and Jailer Osborne that we were able to do it. These are all the folks that help make county government run just like an operating system on a computer. What does the operating system do? It runs in the background. You never see it, you never know it's there, but it has a job to do, and every time you punch a key, the key works. Any former court commissioners here? I know I saw Judge Executive Reed here. Reed, are you here? Any others? Reed, thank you for your past service. My wife of 46 wonderful years, Judge Judy, would you stand up? And my son, Will. Sit down. Oh, our son. Oh, I'm sorry, it's our son. Okay. There is a response to that, but I won't go into it. Wait, on my paper it says breathe and go slow. Wow, what a year. I mean, we have had some year in the past. I remember starting my speech last year playing a song, Back in the Saddle Again, in honor of Mayor Watson. This year, I tried to find a song about saddle sores and saddle soap. I couldn't find any. So, Tom, I'll let you go. I'm happy to say, and Mayor, get ready, I'm happy to say the state of the county is good. We have money in the bank. We pay our bills on time. In reviewing past State of the County addresses, one will find a recurring theme in many of them. From 1999 through 2016, where Judge Executive Reed Hare and I have talked about topics such as community involvement, accountable leaders, economic development, workforce development, education, pensions, cooperation. Now, these topics keep coming up because they're so very important to our citizens and to our local governments as our community strives to become a better place to live, to work, and to raise a family. Last year, I talked about the county and how it functioned and how the various offices work together to provide a seamless day-to-day government operation. That's that operating system that runs in the background. How working together, we've been able to do all the things that we're constitutionally responsible for while staying within our budget for revenues, for expenditures. And we do that by using good business principles. Today, let's review a couple of the issues that I talked about in the past. Issues that can have a dramatic effect on our efforts to continue to move our community forward. And first, let me talk about an issue that is on our community priorities list, home rule. Now, Suzanne, and you can pass this a text back to her, the only bad thing I said was, the General Assembly continues to talk about local governments controlling their own destiny. And in my opinion, that's all it is. It's talk. They want us to have home rule when it's convenient for them, and they don't want us to have home rule when it's convenient for them. Who better knows what's needed locally than you? And who better responds to those needs than your local governments? Not recognizing that one size fits all has been responsible for more failures in government strategies, from the war on drugs to the war on poverty, than anything else that I can think of. I have continually called on the General Assembly, as I know the mayor has, to give more autonomy to local governments. Allow us to do what we do best, and that's to tune local governments to local needs. Now, autonomy comes on the revenue side as well as the spending side. On the revenue side, I hope that the General Assembly, in their effort at tax reform, will keep local government needs in mind, from how we receive revenues from taxes to leveling the playing field across the Commonwealth. I hope reform will give our citizens some input by law on major tax increases of all kinds. The spending side brings me back to a review of my 2013 address, and I quote, "The first issue that comes to mind is retirement." Now, you knew I was going to talk about that today. This is the elephant in the room. This is a topic that every elected official will tell you they wish to address, but they continue to kick the can down the road. Like an illness that's ignored too long, we wake one day and local government's budgets are fatally and morally wounded to the point that local government can no longer deliver to our citizens the services they need and want. I think there's no better example of the need for home rule than the pension system. Unlike the state, counties and cities have fully funded their actuarially required contribution. Now, I kind of got messed up there because saying actuarially is really tough if you're trying to go fast. Yet today, the County Employment Retirement System, the CERS, has less than 60 cents available to cover each dollar's worth of liability, and it's getting worse. There are many reasons for the continued shortfall in projected cash needed to pay current and future retirees in the Kentucky retirement system, in the KRS, not the least of being the failure of the state government to adequately fund their ARC. This failure is a part, but it's not all the reasons for our pension problems. And it's not the reason that our pensions are considered one of the top 3 worst funded in the U.S. If full funding is the only reason that we're in trouble, why is it that CERS, local cities and counties who have always fully funded their ARC payment, has less than 60 cents for every dollar we need to pay current retirees? If the 2008 recession were at fault, why hasn't the pension fund recovered? Anyone that has a 401k will tell you their 401k has recovered. Mine has. Perhaps part of the reason is that we have more retirees than we have workers paying into the fund, thus requiring the liquidation of invested assets to be able to write current retiree checks. Now, any of you bankers, Wade, at least I hope you know this, if you have to liquidate assets at a recession low, then that means that you have no funds to invest to take advantage of the new stock market highs. The failure of the KRS board to use accurate data for investment return and payroll growth contributed to underfunding as well as many other factors, all out of the hands of local government. But I think that local governments are sophisticated to make their own choices. At least now we have to deal with it. And I do want to take a moment to thank Governor Bevin for trying to address the pension fund. I mean, it's been kicked down the road for so many years. I hope that we can come up with a solution. Next year's ARC for CERS will increase by almost 50%. That's going to take an additional $1.7 million from fiscal court's budget. Now, as a court, we can pass a continuation budget, doing the same things next year that we did this year, using the modest increases that we will receive in revenues. The $1.7 million extra retirement costs will have to come from our reserves. Now, because of past courts, because of our commissioner and our staff, we have reserves. We have a healthy reserve. But the 1.7 is not a one-time issue. The 1.7 million will be every year. And at some point, our reserves will drop down below what we are supposed to keep in reserves. When that happens, costs for bonds, costs for borrowing, all those things go up. And we can weather the one-time hit until the problem is resolved. But if we have to do it every year, we get in trouble. If it takes 30 years, think about that, Wade. 30 times 1.7 is $51 million. That was the answer you were coming up with. I could see your eyes rolling. $51 million taken from the citizens of our community. Think what we could do. Think what we could do with $51 million. And that's just from the county. The city will have even that much more taken. All the organizations that contribute to CERS will have money taken out of their budgets. The good news is we have the money to do it. The bad news is the money is in your pocket. Who laughed? But it is funny, right? The money is in your pocket, and that's where it's got to come from. Unlike many, I really don't care how we got here. I don't care who's at fault, but here we are. I have two goals. The first being that we resolve the issue, making sure that the promises that we made to our employees are kept, while keeping in mind that it is you and I paying the bills. Second, I want the issue resolved with some date certain, when local taxpayers can say, thank God that's over with, and let's move on to something else. That's why I have supported and will continue to support the separation of CERS from KRS with our own board. Now, I don't have a problem if the state wants to provide some oversight, but they need to allow cities and counties to do what we do best, and that is to solve our own problems locally. Yeah, go ahead and clap. In 2001, Judge Executive Reed Hare talked about core issues crucial to the future of our community. One of those issues was workforce development. As recent as 2016, and Congressman, I'm glad to hear that you're serving. I'm not bashing you, I'm just going to talk about workforce development. As recent as 2016, I talked to you about workforce development, and specifically the lack of employable people with sufficient education and the requisite skills necessary for a 21st century workplace. You think pensions are complicated? This is even a more complicated and multifaceted issue, and it seems as if everyone has an answer and no one is listening to the other side in order to present a coordinated effort. Kind of reminds me of what you've heard me talk about in the past, and those are the silos that each organization builds up, and don't you come into my silo, because I want what I want, and I want to do it in my way. With unemployment hovering near 4%, you would think that there are not people available to work. But in 2016, there were 56,000 people between the ages of 20 and 64 in our metro area. The labor force available was 45,000. What happened to the 11,000 people who are not in the labor force? We can explain some of those as stay-at-home moms. Some folks have disabilities. Some folks are incarcerated. But where are the rest? How do we account for them? And if you just took half of that 11,000, that's 5,000 people, and if you applied that to the 56,000 people who are available, or the 45,000 people who are working, instead of a 4% unemployment rate, we'd be near 10%. And we have programs to help folks get trained, get educated. Most come down from the federal government. The funding goes to the state, and from the state to local government. The programs all have strings attached, and most of the time are a one-size-fits-all. We have many really good folks from the private sector and from education who spend much time on the boards overseeing and trying to implement the programs. Many of the programs seem to have rules and regulations put in place just to frustrate these volunteers to the point that they throw up their hands and quit. I've been working with workforce development since the early 90s, and we seem to be no further along today than we were then. Owensboro and Daviess County are different than northern Kentucky or eastern Kentucky. We have different needs. I believe that federal funds and state funds should be block granted down to the local level with a broad control structure and allow local governments along with the private sector to do what we do best. And that's to fabricate a program that fits our own needs. I've often heard Mayor Watson talk about preparing folks not just for a job. Let's prepare them for a career. And I agree with the mayor wholeheartedly. Some wonderful programs are already in place, and we need to look at models such as GoFame, where folks work in the private sector and are mentored while attending school. Dual credit programs, courses taken in high school that count toward college education or college credit. And the Western Kentucky University Owensboro Edge program, which works on economic development through guidance education. Government can't solve major problems, and while we shouldn't be in the business of picking winners and losers, we can nudge society in one direction or another by making funds available to those who need help. How can we nudge our people and our workforce? I don't know. But I do know that we'll not be successful if we don't work together, if we don't speak with one voice, and if we don't pool our resources. We can't afford to become frustrated and quit for the sake of our people and for the sake of our community. I know you're going to be happy to hear this next sentence, my last comment. My last comment's about economic development and the fund that Daviess County Fiscal Court established in 2011 to add a local incentive for companies looking to expand and locate in our community. That fund has seen some success, but I think that it's time to change direction. And while we will still compete for new business with state and local tax incentives, I believe we should restructure our economic development fund to place more emphasis on trying to incent more women and minority-owned businesses to start up, expand, or locate here. You know, we've had lots of folks in our community this past year talking about things like marijuana, statues on the lawn, backyard chickens. I can tell you, if we would put more emphasis on trying to raise the economic status of minorities and women, we could cure a lot of ills that go on in this community. And one of the best ways is to encourage entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, at least I hope so, and I will be recommending that change to our fiscal court. Wouldn't it be cool if our community received another award, another accolade among all the things that we've received over these past years, and be named and recognized as one of the top 10 places known as a community that values entrepreneurship in women and minorities? Wouldn't that be great? I want to thank you for attending today and listening to me. I'm going to close with a verse from the Christmas hymn, O Come, Emmanuel. The lyrics are a reflection of my desire for you, and especially my desire for folks who work in local government, folks who work in state government, folks who work in federal government, where perhaps we can come together, where we can pass or put aside partisan politics for a while and actually use knowledge to make good decisions for each and every one in our community. If I were the mayor, I'd sing it, but I can't. So, O come, thou wisdom from on high, and order all things far and nigh. To us the path of knowledge show and cause us in her way to go. Thank you. Happy New Year. I will.
I could just say Mayor Tom Watson. That's all right. Former board chair. Please help me welcome Mayor Tom Watson.
Well, greetings from all the folks at City Hall, all the employees past and present, all our city employees that are here. Please stand, be recognized. We certainly appreciate all you do. As well as our elected officials and their spouses, because when you elect one, most of the time you're getting two, let me tell you. So please stand. Bob, Larry, Jay, and Pam, and their spouses. Jean, Holly, Rosemary, and then, of course, my boss, my Barbara. Please stand. Thank you very much for allowing me to play. And just in case I go down, we do have a replacement for me, I promise you. It's Watson. Huh? You'd be doing it backwards? Okay. Well, we've been really busy this year, I promise you. We've done a lot of meetings, a lot of places to go, and we try to do the best we can for our work. We got an opportunity to speak on home rule and other things to Joe Bowen's committee in Frankfurt. We went to D.C. and had an opportunity to sit with Secretary Chow and talk about a road from Huntingburg to the Maceo Bridge, and I got lost, and finally they threw me out of the West Wing. So, you know, they said, you're going to have to go sooner or later. So I can't, and I just really can't believe it's been a year since I stood here before you with the look of a hitchhiker on a highway in a hailstorm. Couldn't run, couldn't hide, couldn't make it stop. The only thing we could do was hunker down like Joe and Willie and go to work. Over the next 4 months and many meetings, none of which were very pleasant to say the least, it became apparent to me when one of our returning commissioners stated that they'd never seen the budget presented in the format that we were using. So I asked Bill Parrish, city manager, to present the budget for public viewing and input. Because, you know, why should we have all the fun? You know, most of us understand that we must live in the present, but always prepare for the future. And it's been said that the unelected faction of a community should not be trying to control the narrative. We were elected, and we should control the outcome. And we will be judged on the outcome, good, bad, or indifferent. But that doesn't mean we should be so arrogant as to ignore the input of our citizens and should strive to be as diverse and as inclusive as possible. I'll expand on that a little bit later. You know, last year I promised we'd kind of pump the brakes a little bit until we could get a handle of what had happened in the community and how they did it and where it was going. And while we would try mightily to continue steady progress in an orderly fashion, commensurate with the funding available while trying to maintain the excellent service your city government gives to you. And with your help and understanding, I believe we did just that. As I've stated many times before, I think all elected officials should strive for uphold four basic principles. Public safety. I'm going too fast, Leslie? Okay. They told me I didn't have much time, so I'm hurrying. Sustained economic growth. Owensboro was just named the 17th best place in the nation for manufacturing jobs. What about that, Scott Williams? Huh? Pretty good? I think it deserves one of them. Give him a hand. We would try controlled spending and work towards a balanced budget. So let's review what happened last year in OBKY. You know, when M&I doesn't deliver fake news, it was a blockbuster year. Look at it. Well, we immediately went to work to shore up our police and fire departments by adding police officers and firefighters, as well as increasing their pay. And the chief, I doubt will ever give you everything you need or you want, but we're trying to move in that direction, and I promise you, you'll stay on the front burner as long as I'm here. So I'd ask all police, fire, first responders, both city and county, just one more time, let's just tell them how much we appreciate all they do for us. You know, just keep in mind, when we're running away from trouble, and birds are running right in there after it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We'll work on sustained economic growth as well. We're extremely fortunate to have some visionary private developers in our community. Most of you, if you've been paying any attention at all, know the names. Hayden, Wells, Bryant, Jago, Hurricane, just to name a few. All the successes these folks have had with the help of city and county government when able, and with state and federal governments, contribute to make us who we are, and also pave the way for future successes. And when you combine that with the invaluable existing businesses we have in Owensboro, they continue to make Owensboro better and better. Business expansion of corporate citizens has not gone unnoticed. Right down the street, we have a wonderful example of a 111-year-old business under the leadership of Helen Cornell, standing tall to help our wonderful ag community. Our friends at Methuselah, Independence Bank, U.S. Bank, Castle & Steel, SF&G, Kentucky Legend, O.Z. Tyler, Swedish Match, and an entrepreneurial group, the Hollison Bunch. You know, and our new corporate citizen, anybody from Alorica here? I mean, they got all the employees now. We got a Alorica representative here. They're out recruiting, aren't they, Candace? Okay. Our corporate citizens contributed $185,000 for special events this year in donations and others to make us a destination city. Now, we have a new CEO at the Economic Development Corporation, Mark Snell. Is Mark here? Is Mark here? Is Mark here? Hey, Mark. I want y'all to recognize him. He's a hometown boy. Went to the big city. You might diet dude, would you? Might do. Made it big. He's decided to come home to share all his immense knowledge of the world. And I promise you, we're expecting big things out of the Economic Development Corporation. We also have a new president of the Convention Visitors Bureau, and Leslie actually put his name down there phonically, so I have to say it. Mark Calitri. Is Mark here? Huh? Be right. You get up, Mark. Now, he's hit the ground running with a mindset that you got to sell our community. So, before you leave today, meet the Mark brothers and give them your card so that they can have a contact with you, so we'll know when they need to call on you for their help. Our partnership with the folks at Spectra. Y'all heard of them? Is Blake here? Blake Henry and his workaholics are doing a great job of filling up this big place. And you know, I'll text Blake or call him with some screwball idea. All he does is say, I'm on it. Thank you, Blake. Appreciate you and your group. And quite honestly, I believe you could help a few more entertainment venues if given the chance to make sure that they stay open and have entertainment for this community. The partnership with Spectra reaches from here to the Sports Center, obviously, and we've got a recently renovated Sports Center. How many of you have been in the Sports Center and see how it's been renovated? Great. It's looking great. We got remodeled concession stands, video boards, a new floor, thanks to Kentucky Legend and Independence Bank helping. It's it's a very important place. It's where we celebrate our war memorials. And over the past year, we've received over $300,000 in Homeland Security grant money. Thank you to DJ Johnson, State Rep, that will assist us in everyday community work. Now, we finally found something to partner with Daviess County Fiscal Court. I know that sounds kind of weird, but we finally did. It's called the Lindar Program. I swear to you, I couldn't explain it if my life depended on it. So see Mark or Kevin, all I know it's got something to do with the floodplain, right, Charlie? Isn't that it? Okay. But that's where we did partner with them. And a special thanks to our friends at Atmos for their help with the memorials in front of the Sports Center. They needed a facelift badly. And our Gold Star couple, Kathy and Tommy Mullins, brought it to my attention. So I tried to see what we could do. I talked to Bill Parrish, and he says, we can make it happen some way. We'll take it from somebody else. And I said, he said, it's certainly not planned for in our budget. So Ms. Kay Coombs called, and thanks to her and a bunch of OBKY folks we have in Dallas for their generous contribution to make that happen. Please take time to stop by the War Memorial on the way into the Sports Center. Those folks paid the ultimate sacrifice so we could sit here in OBKY and be happy. We have a new owner at the GE building. Is Antonis there? He's probably making the deal. I call him 5, 10, 20 Antonis. You got to ask him about that. Our partnership with the Carpenters Union from across the river provided over 600 flags that were put at the Shelton Memorial to recognize the tragic N-22 project. I hope you had a chance to see that impressive display of patriotism. We now have a new basketball team, as Al has said, or someone has said, Kentucky Thoroughbreds of the North American Premier Basketball League. Please get out and support your hometown team. I went to see them practice at the Y the other day. Wes, they got some talent. They might be able to block your three. I'm not kidding you. They're going to be really good, and it's going to be playing at our recently renovated sports center, okay? You got that? All right. I think you'll be impressed. Now, we continue to maintain full employment, or really very low unemployment, which is good and bad, I think. So we will need to continue to do what we can do to create an atmosphere, and that is where I believe an atmosphere of a place where people want to be a part of our community, and that's where I believe you can't underestimate the value of an energetic and vibrant Chamber of Commerce. I'm so thankful that Nick and Caroline's mom, Ms. Candace Brake, and her wonderful staff are there. She truly gets it, and if there ever was a job that someone was meant to do, it's this one. Candace, thank you for all you do and all you folks. Appreciate you. And I'm proud to announce that we had the honor and the pleasure to swear in our first female firefighter. How about that? And I think that's a big deal. Which I believe shows our commitment to creating opportunities for all. And not to be forgotten, two-time Ohio Valley Regional Emmy Award winners, our own multi-talented media specialist, Tanner West. What an accomplishment. And I dare say it's only the beginning. Right, Jason? I told you I was going to call you out, man. Where are you? Okay, never mind. All right. So now, there they are. Aren't they pretty? So now we move to 2018. I'll give you a peek into what lies ahead. We plan to add 6 new firefighters and continue to show progress on the triplet twist under the leadership of Miss Abby Shelton. But sadly, a large piece of that puzzle is, you know what? Ain't saying it. Still want to have a dialogue with Owensboro Health about turning all that space in. There you go. I'm going too fast again. I'm sorry. All that space in and around the old hospital location into a tax-generating piece of property by putting it on the tax rolls. Look at that hole right there in the middle of the community. It only seems logical if they can create those state-of-the-art wonderful healthplexes in Henderson, Madisonville, and Muhlenberg County. They could at least entertain some dialogue to help Owensboro with a triplet twist development. to have a drink on this one. Breakfast of Champions. All right. So visualize with me, if you will, a new development, and only a few blocks from our magnificent downtown. We could actually use that parking garage there when we have big events on the river, and have the trolley make runs back and forth to bring people downtown to enjoy our four-lane highway, which is the Ohio River, outstanding festivals and events, and eat at our restaurants. I think it'd be pretty cool myself. So anyway, I'm going to try again. Mr. Ed Ray stated that the activation of the tax increment financing districts should occur in 2018. Hayden Road, which is set to open this month, which means stores opening in Gateway Commons soon. They're working on setting a ribbon cutting date, with the first tenant to be open in February. A new downtown parking garage is going to be built where that big hole is across the street here. And a third hotel, which everyone has said we need to attract much larger conventions for economic development in our community. The opening of the Enclave on Veterans Boulevard, and the exciting development of the old Texas Gas property. Having said all that, I'm sure I've omitted a few things, but there's still a few clear and present dangers. As Al mentioned, the pension issue, and quite honestly, God bless Joe Bowen. He's put his heart and soul into trying to figure this thing out to move the needle just a little bit. And it's tough, and he's been sweating this thing. And we play golf quite often together, and it goes all the way back to last summer. And I'm hoping that there will be some calm solution for all the cities and the counties that have to pay that big part of the pension. You know, we have other critical issues around there. One is recruitment of high-level staff replacements that are retiring, or private sector, I call poaching some of our brightest young leaders. We have issues with OMU, power production, water service to both city and county water districts, and future issues on how we transition to multiple types of renewable energy. Our bond rating, even with all the hard work we did to try and stabilize our finances, we're still going to have to work even harder to convince them that we are serious about putting our financial house in order. But I'm really proud to say your city government did not borrow one thin dime this year. So I'm really happy about that. And actually, we returned $2 million associated with the bond anticipation notice, voted on by the previous commission in November of 2016. There's still much work to be done as it pertains to our biggest jewel on the Ohio River, the Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame and Museum. So with these thoughts in mind, I found it necessary, as I stated earlier, to reach out to some of our citizens and create the OBKY project. Partnering with A+ Leadership, it's run by former Commissioner David Johnson and Dr. Fred Reeves, former everything, along with the Chamber of Commerce, see, more can dance. They were asked to hold formal sessions that some 250 people attended, including multiple types of groups, to share with us another perspective on what the community thinks of where we are and where we might go, with the overarching idea of things that would not require a lot of money or that might be adopted by the private sector. Without getting into the weeds, they held 12 focus group sessions, and beginning sometime in September and finished sometime in November. Each group was typically composed of 15 to 20 participants. Many of the sessions were held around a working lunch and usually lasted about 2 hours. Each group was asked to offer specific ideas of projects or initiatives that the community should or could consider undertaking. No ideas were to be judged or evaluated, but simply offered for consideration. Ideas were solicited under 8 broad areas that typically impact the community and in which many times city government may be involved. Those specific areas were, I'm not going to read them, you can read them. Now, this was the easy part. Implementation, again, a little more complex. I intend to appoint committees to address suggestions offered during these input gathering sessions. These committees will consist of folks that participated in the initial process or have expressed an interest in being part of the project. City staff and other community agencies will be included as appropriate for various topics. We hope to have the committees begin sometime this month to evaluate ideas and categorize the ideas as easy and obvious. Well, I hope we have a bunch of those. Important but complex. And the last one, likely not, I can't say that word, going to happen, implementable. That's 5 syllables. Not going to happen is the last one, the way I look at it. The committees will then develop implementation strategies and present to the commission for their further consideration. The commission will then assign the responsibility to an appropriate city department or ask other organizations in the community to consider moving the idea forward. Hopefully by summer of this year, the work should be done, barring some unknown issue that seems to always occur. Well, all in favor indicate by saying aye. That's weak. We're going to go again. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed? Chief, arrest that guy, will you? You don't want to. Just get him out of here. Well, I hope you will understand we're trying to be as inclusive and reach out to as many specific groups as we can to get your input. Now, one of my favorite verses in the book comes from St. Luke. Much will be required of the person entrusted with much, and still more will be demanded of the person entrusted with more. As you can tell, we have much to be proud of. But we must continue to work even harder to be the best, because we have been entrusted with more. In closing, thank you for allowing me to be your mayor. I continue to be humbled by your kindness, and remember, it's not about how to survive the storm. It's how to dance in the rain. God bless. Hug your babies. Be safe.